he just went low. He's in his head. He's in his head. He's open, his head wide open, cracked open at the base.
Hey, what's going on guys? It's Mario Kart. Welcome back to another video. This is going to be part of the Mario Kart Marathon. It's November 1st when I'm recording this, so you can see why I got Bayonetta 3 right next to me. It's because I bought that the other day. Got my pre-order. Yes, I got the big special edition. I didn't realise how big it was going to be, considering the Bayonetta 2 one was probably about half the size, maybe 3/4 the size at most than that. But yeah, the art book just seems to be fucking huge, you know. I haven't opened it. Just haven't actually played the game yet, so yeah. So that's the time of this recording, but it is a bit windy outside, so if you get some background noise with like the fence, because it's a metal fence, and like stuff like that, blowing in the background and noise, like background noise, can't do much about it. The weather's been kind of crappy the last few days. It's actually been relatively sunny today, though there's a lot of clouds even outside now. So it looks like it's dribbled rain a little bit, but not too bad. But it has had a bit of rain the last couple of days as well. And I'm safe because there has been some flooding in town, just due to the fact that our dams, the dam that's closest to us is at full capacity and had to let out water a couple of weeks back. So flooded the river down, which is down towards the north of the town rather than me in the south, but yeah. So the weather's not been great, but let's hope November's a little bit better, who knows. But I wanted to make this video because currently right now I'm, in terms of recording and stuff like that now, I just officially finished all the recording of DS's voice lines, which I know sounds weird because that means that, you know, DS would be the next review, but we're actually going to have a discussion on the Mario Kart series in general. Now, usually when it comes to the review marathon, sometimes I have a discussion and that sort of thing at the end of the marathon and that sort of thing. Maybe like an update video, and I just feel like in the middle, just to pad out, again, one of it is to pad out time for that video to be done, so I just need to edit a whole bunch of stuff and then I'm good. But then I've started recording Wii's voice lines today. So I've already done the first line, the first paragraph of it. I might do the second or third one today, and then we'll go from there. I still need to write all of Mario Kart 7's review script, which I have all my notes for. And that will be the last review of the marathon, just so you guys know. I know some people are going to be like, oh, well, what about Mario Kart 8? Well, I want to save Mario Kart 8 until after all the DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is done, because that's not done until next year. And it would be pointless of me talking about Mario Kart 8 Wii U version when Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still technically like the same game. It's just you know, would it be a re-release of Mario Kart 8 for the Switch, just with more content, and like all sorts of additions and stuff like that. So it feels like it's not necessarily a new game. It's like a mid-step, like what Smash Ultimate was originally going to be, or what people thought was that was going to be before it actually became a full-fledged, like real-life sequel to the franchise, and it's probably one of the best Smash Brothers games ever. So yeah, so that's what it feels like. So I want to wait for Mario Kart 8 to have all its DLC, because once Mario Kart 9 gets announced and is released, I'll probably be doing Mario Kart 8 at some point. But I feel like Mario Kart 7 is a good stopping point. I do want to go over some of the other stuff because I'm only tackling like the main series games. I'm not tackling things like Mario Kart Tour for the mobile game. I'm not talking about like the arcade versions of Mario Kart, and I'm not talking about Mario Kart. I think it's Mario Kart Live, like home circuit, as well. The toy RC car thing. I actually don't have that. The only games that I actually own in the series are I have a physical copy from Super Circuit all the way through to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Of course, I technically don't have Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U anymore, but I technically have Deluxe, so it's, yeah. And this is technically the third copy of Mario Kart 7 I've owned, the one that I have right now, because I got it with my new Nintendo 2DS when I ended up buying that. They gave me a whole bunch of games. It was like Smash Brothers, New Super Mario Brothers 2, 3D Land, and a few other games, like DS games, like licensed games. One of them was Mario Kart 7. It's like, oh, the demon hasn't left my house anymore, like, yet, because I've still got it. So, I know that's a bit foreboding, but we'll get to that in the review when I get to Mario Kart 7. Shouldn't take too long for me to write that, I don't think, because like I said, I've got all the notes that I need to record that and write that script down and record the lines for it. And I've had those for a number of years. I think I've had it for probably since almost the marathon start, like the concept of the idea of the marathon starting, which was like 5 or 6 years ago. So yeah, so it's been a long time coming. And I did want to speak on some of the other games in the franchise because I have pretty much experienced all of them but Mario Kart Live, like home circuit. That's the only one I haven't experienced in real life. And one of the arcade games, because I think I've played Arcade 2 and Arcade, I think it's GX or something like that. So I've played 2 versions of the Mario Kart arcade game. The one with, of course, like the Namco characters, like Pac-Man's in it. Some of the ghosts, I think, are in it. I think Hello Kitty might have been in one of those as well. And like some of the characters from that franchise, I can't remember. But at least Pac-Man, and the Tamagotchis, that's the one. Because I played one of them with the Tamagotchis in it. Like they have some Tamagotchi characters in that game, because that falls under Bandai's licensing under Bandai Namco when they merged. So yeah, they have Pac-Man and some of the ghosts and like the characters from the Pac-Man franchise, and like some of the Tamagotchi characters, like the well-known ones, in the game with Mario and Mario and the crew, which is really cool. I played that and I had a lot of fun playing both of those versions, because I played one last year when I went to see my dad over in Western Australia in Perth. We went to a movie theater that had a time zone in it, which is basically like an arcade, like an old arcade type of area. It's got all these like I'd say like Sideshow Alley carnival games type of things. Like the basketball hoop that you got to maximize the amount of 3-point throws and stuff like that you can get in a row in a set timer, and like other games of the sort. And one of them was Mario Kart Arcade. I think it was Arcade 2, I think is the one that I played there. So yeah, so I've either played the original and 2, or 2 and I think it was GX, I think is what the other one's called. I think it's a similar name to F-Zero GX, I think. So I think that kind of correlates between the two, if memory serves. But I had fun playing the arcade game. They've both been pretty fun. The way that it's done, I mean, I'm a sucker for Daytona USA. Whenever I see an arcade machine of that, I think there's only been a handful of times where I haven't played the game, but I've had to play it at least once. Every time I've seen the arcade machine, when I went somewhere, like whether it's a movie theater or what have you. And that game is fun. I've played a little bit of Sega Rally. I'm not editing this, like I'm not having this in the I'd say that it's just off the lib. It's like, you know, it's not scripted or anything like that. It's just on lib, whatever I'm going to be talking about here. So if I mess up, I flub something that I say, apologize for that. But this is more like a full-on discussion. But yeah, I've played Sega Rally, I've played Daytona USA, played a couple other arcade racing games. Cruisin' on that trip to Perth, I played Cruisin' USA for the first time, or like the Cruisin', I think it's Cruisin' Blast, which is on the Switch now. When that got announced in the direct, in one of the directs that they announced it for the first time, I'm like, oh yeah, that game! I just played that game, and that game is fucking fun as hell. I haven't bought it for my Switch, but I think it's only a digital-only game, unless I go through possibly limited run. I'll have to check it out, because there might be a physical version of the game, I don't know. But I had fun with the Mario Kart arcade games. They're really fun. It was really cool to use items. I think you had to like press the button behind like the steering wheel on like the actual arcade machine itself, which is a bit weird, but I mean it wasn't too bad. And I didn't do too bad. I think I won a couple of races. I think I might have got second or third in another, but I don't think I got a result lower than fourth. I think maybe third if I'm lucky, but I'm not sure. So yeah, so Mario Kart, like the arcade games, really fun. I've also played Mario Kart Tour as well on the mobile space, and it's fun. Like I did have a bit of fun playing it. I used to, you know, get the daily rewards for that game. Plus, at the time, Kingdom Hearts Union Cross / Unchained Key / trying to think of the other name. It's three names. It's been not counting Dark Road, but it's like Unchained Key, Union Cross, and can't think of it now. You know, I can't think of it. I'm pretty sure it's been three names. Because like Kingdom Hearts Key is on the computer, and then you had Unchained Key when it released in Japan and the West. That was the first release we got of that game. Then it got updated for another name, and then it got updated to Union Cross, I believe. It might have only been two names, but I'm pretty sure it was three, but I can't remember. But then you had Dark Road, but I was playing that at the same time, so I was getting the daily rewards for that, and that was my main. Excuse the car in the background. There's a few cars with like huge mufflers and stuff like that, and like exhaust on the cars, and they do that all the time. And it affects my voice recording as well for my lines. That's why it took so long with some of the gas as well. Apart from like work and stuff like that, it was background noise like that. But yeah, so my main time sync on the phone was like Union Cross and Dark Road when that eventually got updated into the game. But Mario Kart Tour I did play for a little bit. So I recognize when they announced that New York Minute was going to be in the DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That was really cool because I'm like, I already knew that track kind of a little bit, not every variation of it, but I love how they implemented that, like the multiple different courses that you get from Mario Kart Tour. Because you know you have all these different missions and you have different configurations of the track they can play on. Getting that in DLC with multiple laps being all the different course shapes are really, really cool. I've seen announcements, like I keep up with, like I think I've subscribed to the Nintendo Mobile channel on YouTube. I think at least the Mario Kart Tour one anyway, and I get like the trailers for all the Mario Kart Tour additions and updates to the game, and it's still going strong as far as I'm aware. It's still one of the most popular Nintendo mobile games on there, and they talk about it a lot in like the Nintendo like recap things that they do every month and stuff like that. But I did play it a little bit. I didn't mind it too much. The controls were a little bit unorthodox, but I mean it's a mobile game, so that was going to be the case anyway. It was going to be a weird way of doing it because like if it was back a few years ago, they probably would have had like a random like bloody like steering wheel on the bottom of the screen that you'd have to flick back and forth, and the control just wouldn't work. But I don't mind the control in Mario Kart Tour. I thought that it was fine. Drifting was a little bit weird that you had to get used to, but apart from that, that was the only thing that really was the only thing that was difficult about the game. Like handling it, excuse me, was turning and drifting in the game especially. But turning wasn't too bad, you could flick it back and forth and it wouldn't be too bad. But drifting, you'd have to do it like very fast, and it just kind of didn't feel right, especially when holding a drift down. But I think that Mario Kart Tour as a mobile phone game is great. As for like the additions of like the gacha mechanics, that's not great, and I mean that's been well documented over the years in terms of that game. And I mean it's not the only game that Nintendo has got on the mobile space that does that. You know, Fire Emblem does it, Fire Emblem Heroes, and like Animal Crossing Pocket Camp does it as well. So there's quite a few games in the space that do that. But I think that Mario Kart Tour as a like concept and idea is really good. I like the fact that like a lot of the tracks that we're getting have like from the DLC for Mario Kart 8 is stuff that is in Mario Kart Tour, and it's a bit hard that considering that I think Mario Kart Tour almost has every single course from the series in general in it. But I really like the fact that they have like real life locations with all sorts of different racetracks. I was happy that Sydney Sprint got into Mario Kart 8 because it's like Australian representation, thank God, because we barely get any in a lot of games. We barely get anything. It's like Forza Horizon 3, I think was 3 was in Australia, was set in Australia for that game, and that was really cool because it's like, oh yeah, we get all this stuff, you know, and it's like, okay, yeah, Forza, it's like, yeah, Forza Horizon, so it's not necessarily the racing, like, motorsport type of Forza game, and it's cool that we're getting locales from, like, Australia in that game. But Australia doesn't get too much representation in games in general, and even movies to an extent as well, so getting, like, Sydney Sprint in there was really great, especially when I recognise a whole bunch of stuff. And if you want to see me recognising a whole bunch of stuff, especially when it first come out, check out my Booster Course Pack DLC 2 Wave 2 video, my first impressions video of that, because I go into that track and I really go over a lot of it. I pretty much recognise everything that is in that track in some form or capacity, and I think there might be like one thing that I'm just not 100% on. But a lot of it is pretty like smack bang on. Like a lot of locales from Sydney in general are shown off in that track, and it's fantastic. So Mario Kart Tour as an idea is fantastic. The fact that they're getting real life locations into the game, like New York's going to be in there. We've had Paris in there, which I think is really cool. Paris Promenade, Sydney Sprint. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and we're definitely getting more in the DLCs to come when it comes to Mario Kart 8. We're going to get more. I think there has been leaks for that over the last couple of months since the first wave come out of what tracks might be in the game. And like Peach Gardens being in the game, I think like in the next wave is good because I think that is one of the stronger retro courses from DS that made it to Wii, which I'll get into in the Wii review as well. I'll talk about retro courses in that. But I'm liking the fact that Peach Gardens is in that, and like a whole new track that we kind of got from Mario Kart Tour, I think. Might be a whole new track, I'm not sure, but it's cool to see. Like, it's cool to see stuff, and I'm waiting to see what comes because especially if we get like Airship Fortress in the game, that'll be really cool because I love that track in general. I'm always gunning for, when it comes to Mario Kart Wii, Toad's Factory. Like, that's one of my favorite tracks in the game. in Mario Kart Wii in particular. So I'd love to see that track get represented. Like ultimately, it was like one of the biggest hype moments for the original Wave 1 getting announced was Shroom Ridge being in the game. Like Sky Garden was in the game as well, and I was hyped for that. But I actually got more of a pop with bloody Shroom Ridge because that track, I swear, isn't the most popular track in DS, and I love the track. I think that it's a great track, and the fact that they put it in the game, I was like, that's cool. I love that because it's like DS is literally my favorite game in the franchise, and I will say that because I've had the most experience with that game in particular. And the fact that Shroom Ridge was in the game, I'm like, it's cool. Like some tracks that aren't like 100% like DS's like huge popping out like tracks that are like, it's like, oh yeah, if you think Mario Kart DS, the tracks that you think of, the Shroom Ridge is not really on that list. You think of Airship Fortress, you usually think Waluigi Pinball, maybe Wario Stadium, Peach Gardens maybe, that's one that's like Shroom Ridge on the borderline, and maybe like Figure 8 Circuit because that's the first track of the game, Desert Hills because it was in Wii, and a few others, but like Shroom Ridge being in the game, like being one of the first DS ones that was announced for the DLC, I think is fantastic. So like overall, Mario Kart Tour in general is a great concept. I do like the app. Might at one stage get back into it just to see what I've been missing. Just because there's so many additions to the game now, and I mean there'd be so many gotcha stuff in there that I don't even want to really go into that too much. But hopefully the store is a little bit more lenient now, because I think they might have said they might have been a little bit more lenient in the gacha mechanics, but I don't know. I have no idea. So, and I haven't played the game for a while, so I don't know. But Mario Kart Tour is great. Mario Kart Live Home Circuit is a cool concept. I did like the idea of that. I was thinking of picking it up at one stage, and I just haven't done that. But I've seen it online, and it's like a cool concept type of thing, and you can make all sorts of different courses with the tracks and with the gates that you get with it. It's really cool how the whole thing works. It's really cool. With like the camera, you can see like in real life. You can see like it going into AR technology as well, being implemented into that, and I think that's great. I think it's a cool toy for like kids to play with. Of course, a little like kids that are a little bit older, not toddlers and that sort of thing, because I think that they might possibly break the damn thing. I'm not saying that against most kids. I'm just saying in my experience of being around babies because of family and that sort of thing, and like friends, it's most of the time it's the babies and like the toddlers that break a lot of stuff. It's not really the older kids that sometimes they might break stuff here and there, but it's not as obvious. It's not as obvious, and it doesn't happen as often. But it does happen. But yeah, I think that Mario Kart Live as an idea is a pretty cool idea. I'd like to see what more they could do with that type of concept, but it's really, you're not getting any more like DLC or anything like that for it, so it's just like a niche type of thing that you could get as a toy and as like an interactive experience on the Switch as well. The series in general, like Mario Kart series, like 8's definitely up there as one of my favorites, but DS is my favorite game of the franchise. It's very close. Like some of that is nostalgia, I will say, for DS as well. But I've played a lot of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and that's fantastic as well. Like the music, the tracks, a lot of it is really good. And I'll dive into more of that when I get into the review at some point in the future when Mario Kart 9 is probably announced. But it's one of those things that Mario Kart 8 is like banging on the door as my favorite game, but DS is still my favorite. But like overall, the series in general, I've had so many good experiences with it, and like I said, like physical copies, I have Super Circuit, Double Dash, DS, Wii, 7, 8 Deluxe. It's 8 with 8 Deluxe, And technically I'd say like I have a digital copy on my Super NES Classic with Super Mario Kart. So like the only one that don't have physical in some form or fashion is 64. Only digital version on the Virtual Console. That's the only way that I've got experience with that type of game. And I've played a bunch of these on emulator as well. I've played Super Circuit on a pretty bad ROM, we'll say, but it wasn't that bad. 64 is the one that I played the most on PC. And I think I might have played Super Circuit as well on there as well, but not for very long, and not a lot of it. It was more so 64 was probably the best one that I played on there. That's why I really hold that game in high regard as well. But I will say when it comes to doing the reviews, I've had a good time. Like I said, I've been motivated to try and get this stuff done. Now I was going to say that I am going to talk about Double Dash that went up last week. And I had edited the video, like the whole video, 3 separate times. 3 separate times. Actually, no. Technically, it'll be four separate times with the final cut of the video that actually went up on the channel. And the reason for it is wasn't the fact that I wasn't motivated to do it. Like you know, I was a madman for doing it. Files kept corrupting, which was great. So I'd edited all the way through. I usually do. When it comes to the videos, I save the projects while I'm editing like a long video, because the way I used to do things was I render each particular section that I had edited of a long, like a heavily edited video in chunks. And what happens with that, if you don't know roughly, this is like a really simplification of how the process works, but when you render it and process like the video as like a raw file, it condenses the audio and like the external audio that you might have, and like the video audio that you might possibly have with that as well, into one file. So it compresses the files together. The more and more you do that, like say you have like 5 sections, and you render each section in particular, like not separately, but like, yeah, the first section, and you render that part, that's done. Then you render it with the second part, and it renders again, and then so on and so forth until you finish. That's what I used to do with videos. And what happened with that, and the perfect example of that is my Yu-Gi-Oh! GX abridged episode, and there's a few other videos around that time, so if you're searching up around that time on my channel, you'll see the result of what happens when you do that. And what happens is it compresses the audio and actually deafens it a little bit, or silences it. The audio gets less and less, because it's the easiest way to say it is that the audio isn't as crisp, it isn't as loud either. Like it's, yeah. So it gets edited right down. So that first section that you might have in like, by the time you get to like the 4th or 5th, you know, render, audio might be at like half capacity or a quarter capacity of what it was when it originally was rendered, or raw file, because when you render it, it's probably not as loud as the raw file that you might have, but it's pretty close. But every time you render it in a section, it goes less and less. So I started saving the project, and it actually helped me out a lot easier. I did it with Oreo Hunter the Movie 2, I did it with Luigi and Mario Stupid Retard Adventures, with some of the episodes in that, in Season 3. I did it with the Sonic and the Black Knight review most recently. There's a bunch of other videos, like countdowns and all that type of stuff that I've done with the save. And even though I was doing that, it was having corruption file problems with the video. I ended up, I think, with... It's funny because the length of the video is not that much more than like 64 and Super Mario Kart. I was going to say Super Circuit, but Super Circuit was pretty short. It's actually probably going to be the shortest of the whole marathon, I'd say. But for whatever reason, I think it was the amount of files I had in there, because it was over, I think, fully going from start to finish, it was like over 110, 120 files in general, in terms of video files, not counting like the audio files. And I rendered it after I'd fully completed the first draft of it. When I edited it all the first time, my intro ended up corrupting like 80% into the process, into the rendering timer, which was weird. So I stopped it, couldn't render the video because it was. And what you have to do is to fix it, you have to take it back out, possibly put it back in. Of course, it was an edited part of the like the intro. I just took it out, had to put it back in, had to kind of re-edit everything around because the audio files kind of moved because it's strictly on points in the editing project, in the editing software. So you have to re-edit it a little bit. It wasn't too bad. Did it again. Like the intro file was fine, but the intro to the review ended up getting corrupted like the next time. So I basically re-edited it from that point because I was like, what the hell's going on? And this was like the second time I had done it. The third time when I did it as a full file, now the first audio file wasn't working. So I just was like, this can't be happening. And I was frustrated. This is why when I said back with that update video that I was still rendering and editing the Double Dash review. So what I did on the fourth time that I edited it all the way through is that I did it in chunks. So I got to like halfway through the video and I'm like, well, if I render this now, I'll render this as the half of the project just to make sure I have it and see if it works. It did. Then I edited the rest of the video as I did on the last take without saving it. And I went through the whole thing, and it corrupted about the same spot, about the 7th or 8th paragraph in. I'm like, okay, well I've got the first half, now all I need to do is the second half, and then render it that way. So I've actually combined kind of the both ideas into one, where I've, taken the previous thing that gave me issues and actually has kind of helped me with this video in that I edited the videos separately. So that's why it's when it comes to the break in the middle, kind of feels a little bit off with the editing because it's technically two different videos rendered together at the end of it all. So I rendered the first half, and then I rendered the second half, and then I edited it together because I do it in 1080p. I've been rendering the reviews in 1080p initially before, of course, going in and converting it to MP4 and then going back to 480, which is the way I've been doing it for years. But yeah, so I might have to do that for DS, I would think, because I just finished recording and it's got 13 paragraphs worth of stuff, so it's probably going to have a lot of video clips in that, so I might do that again. We is to be seen, but it's got a decent amount of paragraphs in it as well, so I might have to do it for that. 7, I don't know. Could be that as well, so we'll see what happens, but that's the way I'll be editing the rest of the videos in the review marathon. Of the Mario Kart Marathon. I was going to say review marathon, but that's Pokemon and Smash Brothers. It kind of feels weird because I was going to name it the Mario Kart review marathon, but then that didn't work. Didn't really work. It's kind of a little bit too much. So the Mario Kart Marathon just stuck. But yeah, that's the story with Double Dash and why the video isn't the best it possibly could be. But I'm still pretty proud of it, especially with having all the issues that I had. Considering that I went through all that, it's a bit, I'm happy that the product itself is actually doing well on the channel. I think it's already over 100 views. It got over 40, 50 views in the first 2 days, which was really, really good for a video, for my videos anyway. I think the best one that I've had is the Sonic and the Black Knight review, which has still got, I think, 1.1 thousand views on that video already, and it's close to 1.2. It's getting there. So, and for my channel, that's a big success. So I've been really having fun with doing these long form editing projects in general. It's kind of nice getting back into the swing of things, and especially when I'm, inspired and really want to, I'm passionate about the project. I'm really pushing for like the best quality that I can. So when it comes to voice lines, sometimes I say it like 10, 50, 100 times even with some of the lines that I've had with mistakes and that sort of thing. Re-edited, like re-recorded and redone because I want to give the best quality product that I can. So yeah, so I know I've probably talked and I'm gobful for like 20 minutes, half an hour already, but yeah, basically the Mario Kart series in general, the franchise is fantastic. I love a lot of aspects to it. The racetracks, the characters, the music especially is one of those things that I really love. I love the fact that like the evolution is kind of like doing the reviews and seeing the evolution of the series has been really good too. So yeah. So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this discussion video on the Mario Kart franchise in general, some of the other games that I don't get, that I'm not getting to in the reviews and that sort of thing in the marathon, with like the arcade games, Mario Kart Tour, Mario Kart Live, all that type of stuff. And yeah, so with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Can't even get the outro right. I did that with a few of the outro recordings for the reviews, and it was driving my head in. Like, So with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. This has been Mario Kart Tour 100. You guys have a great time tonight, and of course, take care.